are and how perhaps they might be mitigated. Certainly, my presence at those public hearings is most important because the village board ultimately are the decision makers. So any appeal that the city of Rye would have would be to them. Okay, so why would I come to the Knights of Columbus on a night like this? Well, the truth of the matter is, as Joan indicated, the village board hasn't had much to say, but they are listening. Okay, and the more we together, as a unified group, educate the public, the more that the public's own voice can be heard. And so I think events like this can help shape public opinion and can influence your elected officials, who ultimately are the ones that have to vote on this. Look, the United Hospital site has been vacant for, what, about 10 years now?
Yeah.
It's been a long time. It's been too long, okay? So, you know, something ultimately will go there and should go there. And I don't think that Rye begrudges Port Chester the ability to develop its land, but it just needs to be done in a responsible way. And the impacts from the development need to be mitigated to the maximum extent practicable. Look, this thing is pretty big, okay? It's 1 million square feet of development. It's over 700 units of residential housing, all on a relatively small site. The site is only 15 acres, okay? So, you know, just to give you some context, the total development in Rye's downtown is only about 400,000 square feet, and that's over about a 30-acre parcel. Okay, so this is something very big, shoehorned into a very small, relatively location. You know, one thing that the Port Chester applicant's own traffic consultant has done is, when we show up at these meetings, they put something on a computer screen that's blown up, you know, on the wall, and they say, oh, well, look, we've done these traffic counts, and see these little tiny ant-sized dots that are moving around on the screen? Those represent the cars that we project, you know, will represent the traffic as a result of, you know, the development on top of the current existing conditions. And quite frankly, it's completely useless to me as a tool. I can barely even see it, even with my glasses. And, you know, it's not really helpful in analyzing the situation. And so what Rye's done is, since the last meeting, we've actually requested the computer files that were used by the Port Chester traffic consultant, rather the applicant's consultant, to create that, just to give it some context in some meeting. We've requested that Port Chester actually do recounts of existing current traffic conditions in various locations, which they've actually agreed to do at 4 different locations at various times. We think that they ought to actually recount every location, and we think that they should do new counts at locations that they haven't even counted yet. One of the most overlooked aspects of this whole change in the law, and the one that's maybe least understood, but the one that would have potentially the greatest impact, is the fact that we're not just talking about changing the zoning to allow 1 million square feet of development on the 1.5 acres of land at the former United Hospital site. The board is also considering, believe it or not, changing the zoning across the street to allow the same level of intensity of development at the Cole Shopping Center. That's 50 acres, 50 acres. Okay. So if you think that the impact from rezoning the United Hospital site would be outrageous, just think about something 3 times the size of that. Okay. And there's no doubt in my mind that the applicant has not sufficiently analyzed the potential impact of that type of development. But that's what we could potentially end up with. Now, when I was at the last Port Chester meeting, if you watch live or on videotape, you saw that one of the board members did give a little bit of an insight into maybe what their thinking is, and I think that they're getting potentially some cold feet about extending the overlay zone zoning change. Because I think what they realize is, because they haven't analyzed it the way they should, it is a huge drag on the United Hospital development site. So what I have called upon them to do is to, right now, out of the gate, don't pass go, don't even wait, cut that piece of it loose right now. Okay? Just say to the public, as a matter of maintaining some semblance of credibility and creating an environment where we can focus on the real impacts of this project, just say, we're taking the overlay district off the table. Okay? My hope is that they will do that, because I think that would be a good start. It doesn't get us all the way there, and that's not part of some sort of deal or a false concession that they can make to placate or satisfy everyone here, or at least the people in Rye, about the real traffic impacts of the UH site itself, but it would be a good start. What I've heard Portchester and the applicant talk about is how this project is the southern gateway to Portchester, and it is. But what I've reminded people is it's also the northern gateway to Rye, going the opposite direction. So, your perspective depends on where you sit. For those of you with a bit of history and a perspective of having been longtime residents of Portchester, you may remember this Home Depot litigation dispute that took place between the city of Rye and the village of Portchester about 20 years ago, when Portchester was being developed. Again, it's on a property that abuts right up against the city of Rye, and needless to say, the city had concerns, many of the similar concerns that are being raised now. We know, of course, what happened with regard to Home Depot. The parties, Rye and Portchester, talked about maybe working out a resolution that was satisfactory to all, whereby Portchester would agree to some sort of mitigation at various intersections, and it came close to happening, and then, for whatever reason, the city of Rye said, no, we don't want that deal, we're gonna sue you, we're gonna file an Article 78, we're gonna settle this in court, well, that didn't work out so well for Rye, in the sense that, ultimately, Rye didn't get any of the mitigation that was even being offered to them as part of the settlement pre-litigation. And that's unfortunate. There was also a companion lawsuit where, and I call this a revenge lawsuit, where Home Depot turned around and actually sued Rye and sued the members of the city council individually and personally for the delay that was caused to the project by Rye's filing of its initial lawsuit. And that actually went up to the highest court in the state of New York, the Court of Appeals, and luckily the individual council members and the mayor of Rye at that time dodged the bullet, and ultimately were found not to be liable for damages caused by that. But, and I bring that up just to give context, and I also bring it up to compare the Home Depot project with the United Hospital project. Because what I've said is, and I'll say it again, United Hospital ain't no Home Depot, okay, as far as the sheer size and magnitude of the project. Home Depot, as big as it was, it's only about 100,000 square feet of retail space. Remember, United Hospital is 1 million square feet, and it's residential and hotel and commercial. So Home Depot was 1/10 the size of what's being proposed at United Hospital. So when I say United Hospital ain't no Home Depot, that's what I mean. Nor does United Hospital have to be like Home Depot as far as how the whole thing played out. Okay? Again, I said a little bit earlier, I'll repeat. We're not going to begrudge Portchester the ability to develop this site reasonably and responsibly. And we would like to engage in more of a dialogue with the village of Portchester and have a give and take and a back and forth where they propose ways to address our concerns and we can respond to that again. Because I think that's probably the best way to work this out. Now, under the law, Portchester, the Village Board of Trustees, the the mayor and his colleagues don't actually have to do that. I'm suggesting that they do it as a measure of good faith and as a way to work out a bona fide resolution. Under the law, after they listen to all the commentary and the testimony and the submissions as part of this public hearing process, and after they close the public hearing, they're going to go behind closed doors, and we may not hear from them for weeks or months, until which time is they're required to issue, remember I said DEIS, a draft environmental impact statement? Well, ultimately, they're going to issue an FEIS, a final environmental impact statement. Okay, and that's the magic document where they presumably are going to solve everyone's problems and answer everyone's questions. Well, probably not, but they're going to purport that it does that. And once they issue the FEIS, they don't have to have any additional public hearings on that document, and they can just proceed on their merry way. Now, I think it's in everyone's best interest, not only to get the right outcome, but also strategically to not do it that way. Because the one specter hanging over all this, from Rye's perspective, is that just like Rye filed an Article 78 20 years ago, we could file another one. Okay? Now, certainly, if you've been listening to everything I said, that's not the desired way to proceed, but it's certainly something that Rye is not afraid to do. Look, we take standing up for ourselves very seriously. If you follow the local media, you know that just last year, Rye had a little run-in with the county of Westchester, okay, over Playland. Okay, Playland is in Rye, but it's owned by the county. And, well, so the county said, well, we want to build a massive sports and entertainment indoor fieldhouse complex in the parking lot at Rye Playland. And we said, well, that's interesting, County of Westchester, but just like any other landowner in the city of Rye, you have to come before our local land use boards and commissions and make a presentation and get the necessary approvals and permits. And they said right back to us, well, actually, we don't. We can do whatever we want, and that was their position. So there's the standoff. So the city of Rye availed itself of legal counsel, and we actually took this issue to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and at the time, Mr. Astorino was running for governor against, well, our current governor, Andrew Cuomo, and the person who was going to decide the appeal that we had brought was, well, he was a Cuomo appointee. So, you know, just go figure. That's the you know, that's the way it played out. So the point is, we pushed it to the limit. We availed ourselves of all the options we could, and ultimately the county backed down. Okay, because we demonstrated that we were in it to the end, and we weren't going to bail out, and we were going to do what we had to do to protect the interests of Rye. Okay, so if you're looking for any recent evidence that the city of Rye you know, has the gumption to do this, well, there it is. So, but again, we don't want to do that if we don't have to. Okay. So, you know, on this wet night, I know there's other people that want to speak and weigh in on their perspective. You know, that's just an overview of the way Rye sees this. I appreciate you listening. Again, I do think that we have more in common than you might think. And I think that the issues that I raise are actually just as important for Portchester as they are for Rye. So, thank you very much.